Hi, welcome to another episode of the Critical Introverts podcast. I'm your host, the beautiful Senor Filth. I'm with clean cut Nate Cap. Want to say hi, Nate?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
And I'm with Mitch. He has been on, I think, like two, three times before. If you want to introduce yourself again, Mitch.
Yeah, I'm Mitch. Known on Instagram as Aeronautdesignco. I do aviation theme apparel and stickers, posters.
All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's June, so I think there's only one thing to talk about now, and that is although it's
Only that one thing
yeah.
Yeah.
and nothing else. Just that thing.
So it's obviously cringe month. I mean Pride month. So we're just gonna kind of bat around just general thoughts on like what it's sort of become now. Ooh, AKs, come on. I guess anybody who just wants to jump on and just say what you kind of vaguely think about like what it's sort of turned into.
Well, I guess I'll take the floor on this one. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and there has been for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, to understand what's really taken place, we have to understand that um, agendas have a purpose. They have an end goal. There is something that, hey, what's up, AK?
Hello.
So,
Um, there's 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 an end goal. There's something it, being done in the works to get people to think a certain way and to feel a certain way. And I think that to create a month that people are into. I mean, obviously, you got to get a lot of people on board
Yeah.
for this, and you got to get a lot of people to believe that a lot of people are into this.
Yeah.
And I think obviously, there's a lot of media hype. Media is always very powerful in that way, especially in this
Oh,
day and age where
yeah.
AI is like uh, such a helpful tool. Um, so you can really get a lot of people on board with a certain idea, and it can become something with get enough inertia behind it, and it really starts to have
Mm-hmm.
a snowball effect, and people really start to take on it, especially when you're pulling at the heartstrings and making people feel guilty or feel like they have to be support something or have to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And so when you make it this big month instead of like a day or something, then it becomes this big thing in people's minds because a month is a very long time,
Yeah,
right?
I'm trying to think of like the only it kind of like rivals Christmas as far as like the month long commercialization of the celebration. Like I no other
yeah.
like I don't even think fucking 4th of July. Nothing really gets that much,
Yeah, it's so
grandiose.
corporatized.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about it. Like it's just it's corporate now, and
Yeah, I'm oppressed yet I'm supported by,
yeah,
Sponsor.
multi-trillionaires,
Yeah.
yeah,
conglomerates and things.
yeah.
Poor me.
Yeah, and that's the big, I guess, red flag for me is when it's something
Yeah.
becomes so corporatized, no matter what it is.
Oh yeah.
I guess, AK, would you have any opening thoughts on Pride Month? I
Well,
guess
what was the I missed out on the was there an opening question or is
it
just
was
general thoughts about Pride?
just opening thoughts on just Pride Month and what it's sort of become nowadays.
I went to two prides back in the 90s and before like 15 years ago I was like, okay, so basically it's just like I think gay guys were historically disproportionately out front as culture creators. I do think
Mm-hmm.
that that's true. And then in like the early aughts, the corporate sponsorship starts happening. It's like, so yeah, blowjobs brought to you by Coors Light or Bud Light. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. It's like, this is stupid. And I was kind of a commie back then. So
Yeah.
I'm like, this is ridiculous, whatever. And then 2012 came and I'm like, done. Equal rights under the law. That's all we wanted. And then it became something even it became a religion after that.
Yeah.
So I think it's garbage. I don't think it has anything to do or very little to do with gay. Like they take Christ out of Christmas. They took the gay out of Pride. It's a trans queer theory corporate thing. It has nothing to do with being proud of being gay.
It almost feels like what like the hardcore Christian people like thought Pride was in the beginning, like this just celebration of debauchery and disgust. And now it's just become that. It's just,
for me, it hasn't changed. Like, has it ever been any different? It's just louder now and longer.
I think that there's a difference in the place that it played in by way of culture. I think that people forget what it, including most LGBTQ younger people, the level of forced, not just invisibility. When I was a kid in the 80s, there was no cultural reference points except maybe Lamar on Revenge of the Nerds. There was no validation. There was no there. So there was nothing to. So the idea of being proud back then, I think it served an important function, and it was like kids were offing themselves. It was a miserable way to be. You had no validation, so it was like we're not going. Pride wasn't about look at me. I mean, I guess it could be like, oh, I have sex with other dudes. It was meant to say, hey, we're no longer going to be ashamed. And there was a political edge to the and an in-your-faceness to Loud and Proud. So and while there was debauchery and all of that, this is a natural consequence of a kind, and I know I'm going to sound like a lefty here, but I'm talking in context of history. When you're pushing and denying the fundamental sexual reality of people, and you're giving them no other outlet, of course it's going to explode in kind of a bacchanal kind of way. So the kind of oppressive basically fundamentalist Christian oppressiveness, and there was a high degree of hatred, like when I mentioned on that other podcast, Fred Phelps marched, my gay youth group with God Hates Fags. This was real, and beans, violence, these things are real. So it was to celebrate, to party, was a kind of there was a kind of I don't want to quite say revolutionary, but there was a rebellious affirmation that says, fuck you, we're going to exist. And if you're going to deny our sexuality, then we're going to overcompensate. So there is no doubt that there was some debauchery, but it was you reap the wind, you sow the real wind. So culture gave no normalizing place to gay dudes and lesbians, and then it starts to explode. But if you look back what it was then, there was like more, you'd had like the parents or grandparents, I'm proud of my gay grandson or whatever. That's how invisible it was. It was to say, look, we're everywhere. What's happening now is not that. Now it's a mandated religion that has whatever the overarching ideology is, that is often even divorced from sex. But so to me, it's complicated. I think it's garbage now. I think it's like feminism. Served a point. Kind of, some of that stuff needed to be done, and now it's went way too far and it's stupid. So.
Yeah, I mean, I see such a. I mean, I've always seen a huge divide between, the gay community or the homosexual community and the Christian or Catholic community. So you can see, when you understand polarization dialectics, and you understand that the only way to really control people is to keep them divided. When you get these extremes, so you could say, what AK was talking about, back in the, 60s and 70s, in that era, it's like you could see how there was this extremism of Christianity pushing their religious views to make people feel bad about their sexuality or the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, things start to level out for a little bit, but there's other divides going on at the same time. But then 2000s come, and the past 5 to 10 years, you've really seen this rise of the opposite, the
Yeah.
opposition starting to rise. And so it's all about this understanding of this rhythm, or this what's it called,
Like
the
swinging back and forth.
yes,
Pendulum.
the pendulum
Pendulum.
swing. That's
Yeah.
right. And
It's
so
gonna swing
as you
back.
see the pendulum swing happen, that there's a controlled opposition going on,
Mhm.
right? You can
Oh.
see it happen. I mean, it's happening everywhere, all across the world. But when you really start to see how people are so divided in that way, it's because people aren't really looking at what really matters here. And
Mhm.
this is kind of what I talked about before, which is morality. People have no real clue what a right truly is. People say, oh, human rights and all this stuff, but people don't really have any idea what that really means, because they think human rights are granted by government, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
It's not
Mhm.
granted by people. It's something that we discover in nature. It is something that we can understand by the effects of our behaviors towards each other. By understanding that any a right is a behavior that does not cause harm to another person, another being, right? And so when we really start to understand that at a very deep level, we're gonna understand especially this mind control that's taken place with all these different agendas and all these different divides. Well, we individually have to become balanced within by becoming aware of those pendulum swings. And so once we start to really see how they're doing it, how these conquerors, because that's what they are, dominators, conquerors, these people, master psychologists, they're dark people, they're psychopaths that run this world. They control the minds of the people. Once we understand how they're doing this, then we're going to not be affected by it as much. I mean, obviously, we're always going to be affected by it because we're all connected. But the point is, we're not going to be affected in our hearts and minds. We're not going to, allow it to take over our hearts and minds as individuals. And there's so much that goes into that so many people are not prepared to deal with. And that to me, that's really where the issue lies, is people are too resistant to that internal divide, and that's why we see so much friction.
Yeah. Well said.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. There's you guys talk about the pendulum swing, and when I see like how extreme it's sort of gotten, like seeing guys with the dog mask thing getting petted by little children and shit like that, I look at that, I'm like, you're just gonna make like the hardcore Christian right kind of rise again, just based like you're gonna turn regular people into like God fearing, like you know what I mean. So they're just
Yep.
it's gonna like you're gonna create your own enemy by doing
Yep.
some extreme shit like that.
I kind of feel like that, and I've noticed this for a few years too. I feel like we reached a point culturally
Mm-hmm.
where we kind of figured most of it out. We elected a black president. I think a lot of Gen
Yeah.
Xers felt this way. And the gay rights thing was basically done. It's all pretty much there. And then a generation came about that had no oppression. So they make up oppression. So that's
Yeah.
part of it. But then, because they're going based on references to past oppressions, they're making it's all about identities. So
Mhm.
now mere fetishes have to become new identities. Like just like you have the alphabet mafia thing breaking down into more and more weird little sub letters that have no historical
Yeah.
basis past like 5 years ago. So too, you're seeing a proliferation of whatever whatever arouses me is now an identity. So now I'm like one of the pup fetish people
Yeah.
or a furry or whatever it is. Now this is an oppressed identity, which brings it almost though. Like part of it is, I think you're right. A lot of people not only will but are reacting by turning to religion, and not just extreme conservatives. I think it's a weird kind of positive effect is happening. Is a lot of people are realizing the bankruptcy of this kind of general secular
Yeah.
hedonistic blah 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 whatever it is.
Yeah, I've
But
noticed.
I agree.
Yeah, I've noticed just like regular people just slowly getting more just back into some kind of religion, and they're usually kind of reluctant to like bring up the subject matter, and but you know, I always tell them like it's good that you're at least finding something that gives you, you know, some kind of parameters of good and bad, and at least you're trying to figure things out on a deeper level rather than
Right.
just go on Netflix and just watch the show that says abortion people are bad, abortion pro, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so, I mean, I think that's a good thing, but like I said, like when the extremeness of like the price stuff is going so out of like haywire, you're gonna create like people just gonna hate you based on your own bullshit. So
Yep.
I'm curious. I don't know where you guys are. You're in like LA, I think.
I'm in
But
LA.
it, I'm noticing here is I have limited reference points because I just walk in a 2 mile radius. But last year, this time, Starbucks, it was just a vomiting of every rainbow. Like there were so many rainbow flags, and I was really pissed because it was all month and into July, and they didn't fly the American flag on even 4th of July. Like they extended the Pride rainbow vomit thing all the way through half of July.
Yep.
There's not a single one there that I haven't seen that big stupid progress flag, which was invented here in Portland. I'm ashamed to say.
Progress flag, is that the one with the weird triangle thing on the end?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Yeah, I knew the guy that invented that. And I have to really quick segue. I have to admit my ego is jealous because I do art. I'm trying to be creative,
Yeah.
and he just vomits out this piece of garbage, and he gets this funding from like whatever the donation thing is, and now it's everywhere. I'm like, oh, that's so frustrating. This stupid flag. But anyway, it was on our tram, and it might be somewhere else, but I'm not seeing it. So I feel like it's toned down here, and I'm wondering if you guys have had any sense that that's the case.
I mean, it's only the 4th or the 5th today,
Yeah,
so I don't know how much more it's gonna amp up.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I haven't seen him on billboards, so
yeah,
you know, that's a change.
and plus,
Okay.
I don't like hang around. I don't hang out like around like Hollywood, so I'm pretty. I would have to like drive through there to really see like how things are, but I mean, it sort of felt like it's been like Pride year this year. Like it hasn't stopped, and it's just.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just gotten overall just to a point where it's just annoying now. Like.
Yeah.
Kind of like what happened with the BLM thing.
Kinda, yeah.
Like oh god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
It's very strange.
Well, they're crossing lines now with you know, getting to kids and putting the stuff in kids.
yeah, that is a very very big thing. I guess we can kind of get into that now.
With the Target.
I guess like
Yeah,
let's just get into the whole Target thing. Yeah, so I mean, if anyone didn't hear about what happened to Target, it was a very strange like buildup of like what the fuck. At first, I first saw like videos of people showing like kids, like preteen and kids, swimwear with like tuck and untuck stuff, and then
It's like, what?
yeah, and then I think like a couple days later there was this thing where they started manufacturing merchandise made for some graphic designer who's like openly whatever queer, whatever the fuck that even is nowadays.
Yeah.
But he's also like, I think he's also a Satanist, which is just hilarious and just odd that they would even make that decision. And then after they pull that out, there's a big like, you know, what the hell is Target doing kind of shit. So I guess this is just a general thing of like just the commercialism of Pride and just odd that is. Like I think I mentioned the other day, like it's weird when like you don't want like extreme sexuality being popular. Like I don't mind if people, on their private are into like some weird shit, but it's not good if the number one movie in the country is like, Anal Lesbians Part 9 or something like that. So it looks like we're kind of at that, we're close to that level. That's not good.
Yeah, it's no longer and they can't say it's like countercultural and stuff like that. When it's at Target, it's like
Yeah.
mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just creepy, but it all like there's such a fakeness to it too. Like I just can imagine just like some straight laced office guy just like buying into whatever the bullshit and just I don't know. It has like a casual Friday feel to it, and it's just odd that it went to that kind of point. Of all things,
Yeah.
and of all things, it's fucking Target of all places. Like I could, J.C. Penney probably, but fucking Target where we'll buy like, baby formula and
Yeah.
cat food. It's just what the hell happened.
And
Yeah.
these type of companies, I think people who are disgusted by this should just draw the line, say like it doesn't matter what you do, I'm not going to trust you anymore. So I'm like, for instance, not going to Target ever again. It doesn't matter if they pull it out of stores, they say, oh, we're sorry. That's just no, done, moving on.
Yeah. The bummer thing is that like I think it's just gonna spread through all corporate uh like the corporate world in general is just gonna get gay.
Well, I wanted to kind of introduce a little bit of the deeper psychological, subconscious information that's happening between the symbol or the logo of Target to the subconscious, because it is, pun intended, it's targeting your subconscious. But when you understand the language of symbolism, then you understand that any symbol, especially this symbol, this target symbol, is one of the most, if not the most ancient symbols that has ever been discovered by any archaeologist or anthropologist all throughout the world, all through all types of civilizations, and all the way back into antiquity, all the way up into the modern day. And that is very important to understand, because this symbol that they're using, when you understand what this symbol means, it is a claim to the Most High. And Most High, most people understand the Most High to mean, the higher power, or God, or Yahweh, or, the creator, right?
Yeah.
And so this symbol is directly telling you that this is the the higher power God of all stores, where you can shop, and everything within the store is basically distilled into that symbol that targets your subconscious to get you to want to go there. And it's, there's a reason for the color of it too, because they want you in and out. That's the color red is the frequency of get you in and get you out. And because it's the bullseye symbol, it is an aim directly to your mind to get you to get in and get out. Come in here and buy our
Crap.
crap, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to get in there, and it's telling you to do this constantly. I mean, that there's and the funny thing is that they call it Target. So they're very blatant with it, and people got to understand, these are, Target's not a small, uh, uh,
A mom
one
and
man
pop shop, yeah.
mom and pop shop. It is a huge corporate business.
Yeah.
And these corporate businesses are very, very militarized. And when I say militarized, I mean they have the government all over it. The government is in control of everything that these corporations are doing. Okay. And people that don't understand that, they haven't gone deep enough into their homework to really see this. But my point is, when they start to sell you on some kind of idea, because the thing is, you have to understand, all these businesses are always going to try certain things that, phases that people are going through, certain types of styles and clothes, certain types of foods. They're always going to try to sell you on something. And of course, they're going to try to sell you on the Hollywood Satan, people know that, when they think of Satan, most people have no idea what true Satanism is. They only understand, the low resolution Christian red devil version of the Satan that they've been taught in their churches, for the most part. I'm not saying all of them teach that necessarily, but that is in general the truth. And so this to put this in Target is to basically target you, telling you to your subconscious, fuck you, Christians. It's all about an opposition. It's about getting a rise out of Christians to be upset and to lose focus on what truly matters. And when you really start to understand this psychology, you really can see it everywhere. And then you can see it. What was it right before Target?
Bud Light.
That was, Bud Light.
Yeah.
Same thing with Bud Light. Anheuser-Busch, all of, what is it? Like thousands of different beers.
Yeah, they own a lot.
Yeah, they own so much, and people are only focused on Bud Light, but forget, like, oh, we don't even care about Anheuser-Busch, the one that runs all these beers that we're still drinking other than Bud Light. They're only focused on Bud Light. And again, it's a type of mind control, but it's to get people to focus on something that it does matter. But really, the truth of the matter is, we should be focusing on the people that are, we're not the people, but the psychology that is being waged against us as a war on consciousness, because they're really trying to get us to focus on something so it's not that it's trivial. I don't want to say that, because it's not, because you're dealing with indoctrination of young children. That's not trivial at all.
What are you mentioning? What's trivial? Like the agenda itself, or the
Well, getting people to constantly be upset about, the transgender LGBTQ movement, so everybody's only focused on that instead of focused on the people that are, the dominators, who are actually orchestrating all this and getting us to fight with each other constantly, and hate each other. And, and it's this constant madness. But the thing is, do we have to point this stuff out? Yeah, of course we do. But if we're not going to focus on, the bigger issue, which is the mind control that's taken place, and this, this internal division, it's going to continue. And that's what I'm trying to say with this Target symbol. It's trying to because it's what's called subversive symbolism, where it's like, it's undermining the people through, colors and symbols and, numbers and, different names, and to send you a direct message into your subconscious to make you think a certain way or feel a certain way. And it's subversive because it's not being properly used for,
for good.
It's not because the true Target symbol, or the bullseye symbol, when you really understand it, it's a spiritual symbol. It's to help you understand yourself and your connection to the creator. That's really all it's about. But they want to subvert the symbol and use it for, and I'm not saying they always use it for wrong, but in this case they are. That's what I'm really trying to say.
It comes to mind, 'cause I've been hearing people mentioning lately of like how the rainbow itself was kind of co-opted, like it was a symbol that had some kind of a Christian meaning to it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you guys know more than me, please jump in, because I just vaguely remember hearing that. And then
It's the Noahic covenant between God and mankind that he will no longer flood the earth. So,
Right.
After 40 days and 40 nights of rain, floods receded, and everyone came out of the boat and God sent a rainbow and promised, made a new covenant right there. So the rainbow.
I feel like I can respect those insights in terms of symbolism. I have some problems with them, and the rainbow is a good example. As a symbol, doesn't always universally hold a trans-historical meaning, and the proof of that would be a target symbol itself, which you can find as I've used it as on my goal book. There's no, it's because a target is a lot of, I think, in terms of hitting a goal with an arrow. The
That's
rainbow, the idea of, so it can be spiritual, or a lot increasingly it means goals. So I'm suspicious of the idea of a concerted, a particularly trans-historical, like long-term attempt to deploy symbols in such a way. I definitely do know that symbols are used in advertising and colors are used to leverage, but I'm skeptical about anything beyond that. Otherwise, I think that we would have seen a lot more nefarious stuff from Target over the last 30 years. This is something that's happening now, and we can identify, although different people are going to debate where it really started. I get that. So a lot of people think they see no distinction between the gay rights movement and this. I get why they don't. In terms of the rainbow, that would be another kind of example that bridges both these ideas. It certainly had to, historically in the West, is going to be most popularly recognized as the covenant with Noah. But the rainbow is the guy who chose that symbol. The rainbow is a universal. It's a universal magical whatever symbol across culture. And what he did is, I think that the most interesting thing is, rather than say that it's co-opted from Christianity, which would be the last thing gay guys would do back then, by the way. It's like that's not what they would want to do.
I'm sure.
I think that the important thing is to see the distinction between what it meant then and this new idea. I was never big on the rainbow flag because I thought it was foofy. I was more hardcore.
You thought
it was about like.
You thought it was gay?
The symbols. Yeah, I thought it was too gay, actually. I wore the pink triangle because that's what gay men in the camps, I was militant. I was like,
Yeah.
But, whatever. I was punk. But the symbols represent like peace, love, foofy hippie stuff.
Yeah.
And now that whole progress flag, which the arrogance of that, some millennial kid saying he's going to improve on gay rights by saying, they're going to bring in racial identity, the colors. It's like we're going to like this, but this old flag wasn't. I didn't like the old flag, but it wasn't about identity. It was about us all being human and having love and compassion. It was at least it aimed to something hippy dippy and nice, just like gay rights movement was. Let us like you had made a good point early on about. People not recognizing what rights are. But the core argument was, we want equal rights under the law. We don't want to be treated any differently under the law. That's it. We don't want to be beat up. We don't, if you're going to guarantee, and there's worthy debates about marriage, but at least the argument was, we want equal marriage rights under the law. We don't want you don't intrude in other people's bedrooms. We don't want you to intrude in ours. And now it's crazy. It's like rights are confused with entitlements. Like, I should get a blowjob stipend from Bernie Sanders, or, it's ridiculous.
Well,
but
AK, what? Let me ask you this: where do you think rights should come from, or come from?
I think that they're natural. I think that, well, we can only really talk about natural rights. I think it's best to talk about them as natural rights that come from God. Of course, we have to accommodate people that don't believe in God, but you can just say natural rights. And I think that they're generally going to. I don't pretend to be some constitutional lawyer or have thoroughly researched this, but to me, if there's anything that's not a negative right, the bar is really high. I haven't heard of any positive rights that don't infringe on somebody else. So the whole old school idea, whether it's gay rights or whatever, for whether it was boomers or through Gen X, it was don't tread on me. Let me live my life and fuck off if you're going to try to impose your. So it was like, don't try to make me a second class citizen. Don't treat me any differently under the law. That's what everyone was arguing back then.
Right.
Well, maybe there was some that there's always some nihilist element, but yeah, I think that natural rights have to be defined at the very least negatively, but I think that they're derived from God, and it's very few. It's kind of defined by what you can't do more than what you can.
Right. Yeah, and that is very true. And it's the thing is, I think we have there's this what I hear in a lot of people's views of where rights come from is an appeal to authority being man, like what man decides are rights,
Or the state.
or the state, and when we leave it up to man as the definer of what rights are, then that's where we always get into trouble all through ever since we've began as a human species, whenever that was or if that was. But the point is that we have to understand that these are discoverable. We all have, every single one of us has the ability to discover what a true right is. And, so when I hear this, this idea of gay rights, I immediately think of Black Lives Matter. And the reason I say that is because it's this special thing that negates human rights in general, because human rights are the equal rights. It has nothing to do with gay rights or Black Lives Matter rights, and those are all constructs, and those are not they're not true in nature. In nature, it's how we treat each other that is where we can discover what rights truly are. To not harm someone else by violating their rights, by violating their freedom. That's how we can understand what a true human right is. And that takes some time for us to learn that, because it's been occulted, it's been hidden from us for thousands of years, and somehow, luckily, people are starting to care enough to talk about this, what human rights actually are, because for a very long time, when we're perpetually in these systems of control by man, we only have a very low resolution of what human rights are, because we're fed these human rights into these different polarized dialectics, and making us think like, well, I have I'm this way and I believe this way, therefore I want my rights this way. My rights are different than your rights, and that's not equality. Because that's not equality under the law, the overarching creator's law of the universe. If you want to call it God's law, it's the same thing. And so once we really start to understand this at a very deep level, we really start to see we're really all equal in that way. But we have to be honest with ourselves to get out of these mind-controlled dialectics, that we find ourselves in these mind-controlled constructs that keep us in these different boxes, and that is so important. And I don't mean to sound like, I have it all figured out, because I don't, but I definitely understand what a human right is. And I understand that if we don't understand this, we're going to continue just, bashing heads against each other.
I feel like our founding fathers kind of, as well as anyone ever has, is they understood rights.
Yes,
So I
I
feel
agree
like
with that.
there's two different levels that
Not
we
all
can
of them,
talk
but
about.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be flawed humans, and we're going to try to work things out. And the problem with just referring back to a divine universal thing that we have to wake up to, which I agree with on a deeply, it's the core idea is across all of the major religions, some more than others, but we're flawed humans in a flawed world, and there's two different arenas to discuss rights, I guess. One is philosophical, spiritual, and one is the raw, messy reality of being human beings in a social world. And when it comes to those rights, their practical rights, I think that the reference point can be our founders and the Constitution. And so I see, like when you mentioned gay rights, I don't see that. I don't see that as a special right at all, because what the reference point was, I'm not saying it's the case now. People don't really refer to rights anymore. They don't really talk. They're demanding way more than rights, for one.
Yeah.
But gay rights was, and including the civil rights movement, was saying, here we have a standard of equal rights under the law, which is predicated on something higher, like natural rights, God-given rights. But there's a standard of equal rights under the law, and you are preventing one group from having those rights. So gay people were saying, and whether or not one agrees with it or not, the argument is way different than what you have now. And I think that needs to be, and the reality of what gay people went through in 1973, gay men could be and were institutionalized in California and subjected to medical experimentation. In 1950s, gay men were rounded up in chains and put on the dock publicly in New York. I talked to guys here in the 80s. High school kids would, for fun, would come and go down the gay street and beat the shit out of gay guys. So it was a different reality.
Yeah.
And so, which gives, just like, the old civil rights is way different than BLM, which BLM's largely bullshit. Original civil rights legitimate, because they're based on totally different ideas of what, like you're talking about, of what is a right and what is moral, right? And so then when you had debates, I feel like the debates back then were heated, but there was never a sense of, we want to destroy society. There were people on the right, conservative right, that felt that was going to be the case. And I get that. There's not a long history of gayness being accepted at all in Western civilization. So I get it. But that's a far cry from, let's have gender reassignment surgery for fucking teenager or teach 5-year-olds that they're a different gender or
right.
Yeah.
So, to me, it is important to draw distinctions, because I'm not saying that you guys aren't or whatever, but it's a big problem that I see. This is not the same. It's not a natural there's nothing natural in this from a natural outgrowth of gay rights. If it was, like some conservatives want to say, it would have happened 15 years ago. It would have, or at least it would have happened, 2000, I don't know, 8 or whatever.
But don't you see how those those things, those horrible things that you just talked about that people did to gay people, don't you see how they're not violations of gay rights, they're violations of human rights?
I agree. What I'm saying is that the gay rights argument was saying that. So I'm saying that the old idea, not just gay people, but up until recently, I think people generally did have it, just like everyone kind of agreed that free speech was a thing. It was
Sure.
you just have free speech. There's been a weird generation. I think it's a generational shift. I think there's a lot of other factors. We've reached a point of a cultural freedom and success and then decadence that there's just things have fundamentally changed. So back then, the argument was based, I think, fundamentally on what you're saying. It's like, these are human rights. In fact, that was shirt. Gay rights are human rights.
Yeah.
So I think it's a different, and actually my biggest gripe here is I don't blame like a lot of conservatives that see it was a slippery slope. You allowed the gay marriage and now they're making trans kids. I'm like, I don't blame them. I blame younger and particularly older gay people who are going along with bullshit.
Yeah.
Because gay people, and there's a lot, I feel like there's a lot, you never know, the algorithm gives me what I want to see, but I see a lot of older gay people that are saying, this is what we fought for. This is wrong. I wrote a nasty letter to the library because they have a drag queen story hour. And I'm like, you guys are just, all you're doing is discriminating against the children of religious people. That's what you're doing the same thing that they did to gay people in the 90s. So why can I say that? Because I have an old school idea of rights. It's like you view equal rights under the law. Just because you're now the winner of the cultural war, you can't become the bully.
Yeah.
Right.
The right,
Yep.
So anyway,
I agree.
obviously I get a little pissy about it.
I appreciate.
I'm ashamed. It's like I can't even just be gay without having to. Like back then, I had to be on a defensive from my one side, and now I kind of weirdly feel I have to be on a defensive against another. I know that's just my shit, but it's like, God, I want to retire from this shit.
Like the right to not be offended is not. Is not a natural right.
I remember
boring world.
I remember I first heard someone say that, and I thought they were kind of joking, but yeah, they were dead serious about that. And where the fuck did you get that stupid shit?
And also dictating language as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess AK, I just like. How do I put this? Like, do you have hopes for like just the gay community in general, like as it's turned into? Like, do you think it's going to reverse in any?
Well, I have a pet theory that I had 20 years ago that might be. I just remembered it last night talking to a friend. So it could just be bullshit, but there's part of it feels like I was right. So my basic theory was that you have subcultures, and the subcultures, to the degree that they're out on the outside or the mainstream, they tend to be extra creative, and that creativity expand. And I'm not talking politics so much, but culturally tends to be expansive for the culture as a whole. And I do think that there's an argument that was the case for gay guys disproportionately for a long time, and I think that history kind of demonstrates that. When you're so alien and you're born with no reference points, you're going to stand back and like think. You're forced to try to figure out meaning in a way that other people might not have to. So like I think his name was not Gerald Hurd. There was a 19th century gay dude that called himself a homophile who was a theorist that proposed like the first shamans, the first priests and magic men would probably have been gay guys because they wake up and they don't want to go and hit the female over the head and mate with her. They're just going to be like, what? I'm going to look at the stars. They're going to invent magic and stuff like that. That might be overwrought, but this core idea of if people, groups, a subculture is kind of on the outside, that they're going to expand the bubble of culture. But then this is a little bit of my old school communism coming in, but I think it might still be true. Corporations are going to see when it gets to a point where society is starting to be open to adapting. Corporations see a new market and a new demographic and a new way to make money. So it's co-opted. So I'm saying this in the late 90s, early aughts. That was where my joke was like, oh, Coors Light's going to fund blowjobs, that kind of joke. It's like, this is mainstream. And what happens is that the outside, and I believe this has happened, this is probably totally strang verboten for me to say, but I always said that about a lot of black culture. I was like, rap is shit. Motown was awesome. To the degree that there was this outsiderness, the cultural value that was added to the America was so much more. When it's mainstreamed, it kind of turns to shit. There's not a lot of cultural value that's come out. I'm not saying there's not some, but to me, this was my core idea back then. Similarly with kind of gay culture. And also the idea of a community. This is a community, like all black people, all gay people they're a community by nature of being oppressed, by being forced to go to the gay clubs. And, but we're just as diverse as anyone else. So my thought was that it gets co-opted. It's kind of good because you want to have equal rights. You want to be normalized. You want to be just like the Irish. All that's left is St. Patrick's Day, commercial St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So That's good, but it's kind of sad because you lose a bit of culture, but that's just the way it works. And that's what I thought would happen. And we were on our way. It's just like we're everyone else. That's the way it was. In fact, Pride was just going away. It was like, it's kind of, it's like,
I remember hearing about Pride like late '90s, and then it kind of just fizzled out a little bit. Like
yeah,
it was just like a
it's like,
weekend
okay,
party that I hear
yep.
about, and then now it's
So
like,
it didn't have the political,
yeah,
it had a political weight and then it didn't. And it was just about on its way to being St. Patrick's Day with chaps and maybe a little bit more, open sex stuff. But
yeah,
now, so when I have hope, my hope is because I think this thing that's happening now is it's artificial. It's entirely like,
yeah,
it's just made up, and there's a big ideological element that's undeniable. So it's partly, it's like it's been given a second life by all of the woke stuff generally, which did the same thing with race by inventing like a new, like we had largely dealt with it. If you compare it to everything in the past, most people kind of felt like we dealt with it. There's always going to be racist, but yeah, we're pretty okay. We're pretty good people here. But no, now we're the most racist country in the history of the world. All of a sudden, it's like, where did that come from? Same thing with this, except that the queer theory is well, so is the critical race theory. They're diabolical. But my long answer is I'm hopeful in the sense that there's not going to be LGBT, except in the vaguest sense of, oh, kiss me, I'm Irish. Kiss me, I'm gay. Or something. But yeah, so, and I feel like I'm hoping that with, again, my hope with disease, I feel like some of them are ridiculous. Like on a TikTok, I'm proud LGBTQ plus. You're proud lesbian, gay, bisexual. Like, what does that even mean? You can't be all of those. Yeah. But there's a lot of them I think are just, we're tired of all this stuff.
So you think it's going to be like this fad that kind of fizzles out and then just kind of...
I feel like the whole woke thing is, I'm more optimistic than you even about corporations. It's like corporations were I don't like them, but they're there was an influx of ideology coming from college where all these people got positions of power, and they've been starting. It's finally caught up to the bottom line. It's starting to catch up to the bottom line. Like these boycotts are a really important part of that. And in the end, as the economy contracts, the fat is going to be cut, and that is fat. It's ideological fat. People are sick of working in places where they can't say anything or do anything. Yeah. And they're hiring people that are less effective. It's just everyone's kind of getting sick of it. I could be wrong, but I feel like, people are just tired of fighting all of the fucking time. Like, I think, Nate, you made it. I don't believe that there's a controlled opposition thing, but I think that I do agree that there is an effect, something like that, and that contention gets clicks. That's the way I look at it. Contention works. It activates our primitive brain. It makes money. You either make people horny, or you make people angry, and you're going to, and there's more competition, and you're going to generate more money. Like you sent that Breitbart article and about the Target, and I used to read Breitbart, and I'm like, oh god, it's just like it's like CNN, because I read the CNN article. It's meant to just like pick the most enraging headline to trigger me into reading it, right? But I think people are getting sick of that.
If I were you, AK, I think maybe if you really dive into the works of Hegel and Marx.
I have, and here's the thing about you're talking about like the dialectic, I'm assuming, and here's the problem with the idea of the dialectic. I'll just really quick. I hear this a lot. The idea of the dialectic is generally presumed. I think that poor Hegel gets a bad rap. Because there were right Hegelians and left Hegelians, and the left Hegelians became Marx, and I've read a lot of Marx. The idea for Hegel was that he was being descriptive, not prescriptive. So people who talk, they say that there's this dialectical controlled opposition, that you have the thesis and the antithesis, and this is a controlled thing. That is not what he was saying. He was saying, and I think that this is kind of true if you look at history, that that's the way history seems to work. And he talked about that there is a thesis, like the French Revolution, against, or like the monarchy, antithesis, the French Revolution, and then the synthesis is Napoleon, and that this happens, and then that synthesis becomes a new antithesis, and this happens over and over in history. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't. He wasn't prescribing something that you need to do that. Now Marx later to some degree did, but it wasn't that much. So I don't see. I do believe, and I get shit from other friends that I do believe that the history kind of seems to work dialectically. But he also talked about that it's the spirit of freedom it's the zeitgeist. The spirit of history is a spirit of freedom that's working through time, so that we are evolving into greater and greater freedom, which wouldn't be something that some evil scheming, overlords would do if they were Hegelian. They wouldn't want more and more freedom. But I get the idea, and I have looked into it. I'm not persuaded by. There's aspects of it I am. I do think that there's shadowy dudes, so we can agree on that. I think there's some shadowy dudes, but.
Oh yeah, there's many you can find. I mean, just look at the the Moores, the Rothschilds, the Morgans. There's the list just goes on and on. But one thing, that they've even said is never let a good crisis go to waste, and that's very important to pay attention to, because you have to understand, the thesis, antithesis, and then the synthesis being the problem, the reaction, and the solution. So you have the problem, which is, the thing that happens that makes people, scared and out of their mind, and then which is the reaction, from the the thing that has happened. And then once there's a reaction or a cry for big daddy government to step in and do something, then government comes in as a savior, whether that event was orchestrated or manipulated or not. They can still take advantage of it,
I agree with.
and come in and do something to act like a savior, like they always have all through history. And so all you have to do is get one side to buy into the dialectic, is what I'm saying. And so, when you have this, this controlled opposition, like, for instance, masked versus the unmasked, vaxxed versus the unvaxxed, Christians versus the atheists, or Christians versus the Muslims. You can easily get these sides to buy into a particular dialectic, to get them to pin off against each other. And what that does in the mind is it creates chaos and confusion. And when it creates chaos and confusion, that's the perfect time to control people. And the thing is that, if we're really being honest with ourselves and really look at like what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, that is the defining, way that we can understand whether we're truly free or not, whether we have masters or rulers or not. And, I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong in how you're thinking necessarily, but I'm saying I think you should go a lot deeper to really see how these people operate and really see how they take advantage of that divide. Because without that divide, if people were merged in their minds where they're balanced, there's no way you can control a human being who's balanced within. It's impossible. And anybody who has ever studied anything of psychology understands this. And you can look all through history. I mean, look at Martin Luther King, for instance. Okay, he's a good example. Or Malcolm X. Both of those men were extremely smart. And I'm not saying they were completely balanced, but they were more balanced than most people. When they were standing up, talking about not just they were talking about human rights, for the most part. But obviously they were talking about the suppression of black people. Okay. And so, but the point is that you can tell that they were balanced within, and they weren't going to be controlled by but it doesn't mean that they weren't in some way, but it means that for the most part, they were going to stand up and be loud and not be persuaded in one way or the other. and they're not going to have this infighting. They wanted peace, especially Martin Luther King, but there's a lot of conspiracy behind that whole story. But if you buy the story that we've been told about him, I think it makes perfect sense that this man was very balanced in his ways and his approach. And there's many men and women that have been balanced that the governments of this world can't control. And once we realize that governments only want a divided people, because that's the only way that they can balkanize and maintain power over all these different societies. I mean, that's how governments work. The only means to any ends with a government is through violence, because it's control. It's mind control. It's mind control. And if you don't get in line and be a good little boy and girl, we're going to be mommy and daddy and spank you into the jail cell or just murder you with our order following thugs. That's just how it works. And once we start to really realize that, it will all start to make sense. But we don't want to realize that because we like our creature comforts. We want to stay comfortable. We want that's what ego always wants. Ego wants the comfort, and therefore it's like, oh, if I got a little bit of freedom, I'm cool with that. At the expense of other people's freedoms, I don't care. But see, I think that's where we're failing. We're failing to realize that a lot of people are suffering hardcore in this world other than us. And the more we wake up to that, the more and more the more that we empathize with other people who really are suffering, then we're really going to see that this system that we're in isn't the answer. Because that's really the truth. Is most people think that government's the only answer to anything, and that is one of the most false, furthest things from the truth I've ever heard in my life. When I woke up to it, of course, that's a hard thing to wake up to.
Yeah, one of the recent crises is the development of AI. I don't know if you.
Good segue. Mitch.
Yeah. I agree.
I didn't mention this in the prep, but I kind of thought of it a couple minutes before I sent the invites. But I'm just curious because I've been looking at a lot of AI art recently. Just kind of, there's just something really weird about it that I've been kind of sort of addicted to. So I'm just curious, like, just broad thoughts. So, like, what do you guys just generally feel about AI art?
Love it.
Yeah, actually,
it is weird. It concerns me that a lot of artists are starting to switch to it, to switch from their hands to their keyboard, really, and just to rely on a computer to pull from other original art.
Yeah.
And if people if people stop making original art with their hands and everyone's just recycling their own stuff, it's not going to advance. So
yeah, that's the one thing I've sort of noticed about AI art. It's interesting to look at, but like it at the end of the day, it has like this everything sort of looks the same in a very strange, eerie way, and I think that does come from like the lack of like a human element into it. Kind of creepy to think about.
You know what's creepy is, I was on, I caught a Zoom call. It was like a conference between some like small business people who were so excited that GPT could help them stop paying freelancers. They're like, oh my gosh,
You mean like
profit just is going to skyrocket
for writers?
700%.
For like
for this person was like they were creating ads. Like, we no longer have to hire someone to do ads. We can just look, I'm just typing in and stuff, and you guys, I think the title was like how to increase sales by like 700 or increase profits by 700%. And she essentially said like the 700% is the savings of not paying a human to do it.
Yeah.
Another concerning thing is what happens. You know, right now it seems sci-fi, but what happens when was it artificial generalized intelligence comes and they become self-aware and they start feeling personhood and they start feeling exploited.
Yeah, I remember hearing
that's going to be huge.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about there's one of those AI chatbot things, and I think someone just asked like about like is it aware of its existence, and it just I don't remember exactly what the answer was, but it was something like super like sad and morbid, like this computer just admitting like how useless it was and how it was being used, and
it was a millennial.
But yeah, there is an interesting thing with AI art that it
but
like I do worry about like just the how to put this, like just people becoming more and more useless, I guess you could say, when it even to the part where like it hits the art world, like where there's no use for people, the effects of that.
Well, I think
I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. You can go.
I think there's a chance to capitalize on as artists who really don't want to use the computer. Someone who I'm happy with a pen. I'm happy with Illustrator, not these automated things. For people like that, I think there's a chance to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
Start pushing branding that promotes like, hey, you want something handcrafted? That's me.
It's like an organic stuff.
Yeah.
Organic art.
But it'll be a challenge to. I think you have to also educate yourself about AI art to make sure that you don't look like it. I guess figure out ways to differentiate yourself so that the people who don't really understand art, they are able excuse me, they can tell that they're getting something different.
Yeah, like the one thing I've like you can sort of notice when something is AI art. There's like strange little things to look for. Like I notice a lot of times like the hands of figures are always there's like mutated. 17 fingers.
Hair lip.
Yeah, the teeth too are very. It's like a shitload of teeth.
I have two Etsy stores. That's all I sell is AI art.
Really,
and I'm an artist. When it first started, I was like, because the media is like, oh, let's panic, and I was like, oh wait, I smell something here. I smell it up. Because I'm developing my entrepreneurial abilities after being a commie forever. I'm like, no, what's the opportunity in this? And it's like, okay. And it hit me. It was, okay, it's 80-20 rule is always going to be the case. So I start seeing these people who are just throwing out AI art, and I think it can be art, but they're getting an ego validation. They're artists. I'm like, you're not an artist any more than I am a mathematician by using a calculator. You're not a fucking artist, but that can be art because the art's in the eye of the beholder, and some of it's really awesome. Sure. And I do think that as it progresses, people are going to start just seeing, oh, this is AI. But then again, maybe not, because AI is getting better and better. But here's what I realized for me is that my art, I'm not going to get rich anytime soon selling my own art. So the old model would have been, the old model would be you work at your shitty job and then you do your art and hope to sell it. And then we had this window for the last 10 years or so where it's like, oh, you can actually find all these different ways to sell your art online, and you probably still have to have a day job for a while, and you can slowly build that up. The AI is going to take a lot of that part away. But what I realized is that instead of having the day job, I can sell a shitload of AI art to fund me slowly building my art. And I was like, well, why wouldn't I do that? I do AI. Sometimes I have to edit a little bit because the wonky teeth or I never do hands. Just forget the hands. And then I have it on print on demand and I sell it. I'm not making a lot of money yet, but I'm working on it. So I was like, this is the opportunity. It's going to be like, and the people that are trying to stop it, I get being worried. Like if you've built like an art something, but it's like, just jump on this. It's like the horseshoer complain about the automobile all you want. It's not going to stop it because of the, like, also with the business stuff. Of course they're going to use it. I spent, when I was first trying to build up the business for the book, I spent so much money trying to like figure out like ads. I spent so much money like on courses to write Facebook ads and then for other people to write ads, and it was a waste of money. And then like, of course, if I would have had the chat AI thing, I would have used that and then just riffed off of that. But so I think it's going to have there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of people are going to be fucked, but that's just always, I mean, it's just true, but they can adapt. As far as if it's going to destroy the world, that's out of my, like, I don't even want to think about that, but hopefully it kind of be a rich capitalist first.
It kind of reminds me of how a lot of graphic designers and sign painters were put out of a job once the Apple computer hit, and people could just print at home.
Yeah.
You know, why would I go to the print store when I can just type up a letter and send it? 50 newsletters to my close relations, kind of that type of deal, where the sign painters had to adapt. So we'll be okay. We'll just gotta figure it out.
I mean, I'll go.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I look at this whole AI thing. I look at it in a very positive light. But I also see the dangers in it, of course. But the positives, right away when all this stuff was happening, I saw all the caricature community like, oh my God, we gotta protest because they're gonna take our jobs and all this. And I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that you need to just relax and try to understand what this means, because everybody just wants, everybody reacts when something is attacking or possibly going to attack their business, and that makes sense, right? But the way that I looked at it was like, oh, here's a new modern tool that is pretty amazing. It's like I use Midjourney to make slides for my shows and presentation, and obviously there's sometimes I spend hours just to get one idea that's kind of close to what I was trying to get. But it's pretty amazing all the things that it can do, and it's really cool because in some ways you're being creative. Well, I mean, you really are being creative in the way that you describe things now, because we're becoming describers. And I think that's really, that's getting a part of our brain that's been atrophied to actually start to do something that it typically hasn't done, and it kind of wakes up our creativity in a way.
Yeah, that's the thing about it that I've been kind of like, I haven't really fucked with AI art myself because I've just been kind of lagging on it, but I have been curious about, like, there's the process of, like, if I want to illustrate something, I have to, I have the image in my head and I have to just sketch the fuck out of what I can just to try to interpret my drawing to what I see in my head. And now with this AI art thing, it's like an interesting way to sort of cut out a lot of that, what do we call it, workshop decision making out of it. So that's an interesting part of it. I'm just worried that that the result would be like this. There's going to be this weird sameness with art in general, as far as people, you know.
I worry about our young generation because it's going to upset education so much.
Mm.
I really don't know if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's going to change it, how people learn.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I was really poorly educated in school. No complete surprise there, but um, I know that when the voice thing came onto my phone for notes, or just a voice to text,
Mm.
it really started to help me understand grammar better and understand punctuation better. And that doesn't mean that it's correct either all the time, because it's not. But it really did help me structure in my mind and help me deal with that in a way that I was never taught. So I see the little things in it like that are very helpful. But I think, even with this, if when we start to get away from writing, that's kind of interesting, because it's like, well, if you look at old traditions in the ancient world, it was all voice,
Yeah, word of
right?
mouth.
Supposedly, yeah, word of mouth. And there was symbols that they put on the wall as their language. But the point is that I think that we're like, because I look at writing, when we were cursive writing, it was a very you know I understand it as a feminine expression of writing that I personally like. But the masculine version of the alphabet is when you make it, those like a perfect, like digitalized alphabet or digitalized numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very masculine expression because it's very angular, right? But the point is that when we're on the paper, touching the paper, there is a nice flow of creativity that is taking place. There's a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
But when now you can just sit and talk, and everything just magically appears.
Yeah.
And before we know it, we're all going to have Elon Musk beads in our brain
Yeah.
that we can just like sit there and do nothing.
Yeah.
Just all telepathy.
I really wanted to make a joke when you're talking about the masculine and feminine writing of how dare you assume the gender of your letters. But I didn't make that joke.
Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. Holy shit. I guess we can kind of start. I guess any guys want to add any more to the AI stuff?
Well, I tried Chat GPT the first time today, and first thing I typed in was generate Ali G interviewing Robert Oppenheimer. That was a riot. Do you all know the Ali G show?
I know Ali G.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure who
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Bull rat, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, it had it down perfect. Where he even said like "isn't it" and stuff, and
Oh, that's great.
"booyakasha,"
Yeah.
and "word up to my peace." And
Yeah, that's the fun stuff I like. I
oh my
like that
gosh.
stuff.
Yeah.
talking to all the talking about booms today with my main man Robert Oppenheimer, maker of the biggest boom ever.
Go.
I saw.
Go ahead, AK.
I saw this clip that's AI movies. Now they're doing the movies, but it was Trump and Biden eating spaghetti. It was like a 10 minute.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Oh,
Creepy
yeah,
fucking thing.
It's
that
creepy,
was
but
funny.
it's so funny. And with that, I didn't even know that they had reached the point of the movies. And then with the images too, I think that we're to see another positive spin. We're at this kind of point where the technology creates weird, fucked up accidents that won't last. I think that we're gonna look back maybe at this point of like, God, do you remember when when it was just accidental shit?
Yeah.
That was just bizarre and sometimes fun, like sometimes disturbing, but also just like when you it's like collage work, or like when you lose a little bit of control,
Mhm.
and it forces you to see something in a different way. That can be kind of fun.
Mhm.
So, and I don't think it's going to last because the AI is going to get so much better. But that's my speculations that some of us at least will look back. I remember when it was clunky and weird, and you'd get accidental stuff of
Yeah.
spaghetti eating
Yeah.
presidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like we're training the machines how to see the world how we do.
Yeah.
You know, you see it, the
Yeah, for sure.
clarity coming closer and closer to you know, human vision, and we were able to correct it on the fly. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. It also, it's kind of like, I don't know how to word this right, but um it's strange to like have something interpret your own imagination artificially, I guess. You know what I mean? Like if I type in, I don't know, fucking a flaming hot dog with, you know, on an airplane or something like that, and just see what it interprets, and like it might, like, I'd be worried if like it somehow like beats out my own imagination in the weirdness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be weird.
Yeah, I'm
for
staying
sure.
away from that stuff. Like generate some airplane poster. I'm afraid of it's gonna beat me. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
like,
that's the
what am I
one
doing
thing.
with my life.
Yeah. Like I'm talking like, can it out weird the super weird in my head? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You can
I
riff
think-
off of that weird though.
Yeah,
And get
yeah.
even weirder. So
I think it'll be weird when, you know, you have those strange thoughts that are like, where the fuck did that come from? And then that's projected everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's
Jesus.
freaky.
We don't want that. No.
Nightmares everywhere.
You know, maybe
Uh,
now you have I don't know about you guys, but you know when you wake up from having some weird dream
Mhm.
and you remember it for like 5 minutes,
Yeah, it just goes away.
and then it's gone
Yeah.
for the rest of the day. You're like, you know, and if you don't tell someone about it, it just disappears. Well, now
Mhm.
you can tell it to the computer and it'll save it.
Yeah, it is
So
interesting.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe
That's true.
Yeah, because I have that happens to me pretty regularly. Like I wake up from a dream that I just know was super weird, but the only thing I remember is maybe like one image from that dream, and to now have like a machine try to like interpret my dream for me, it's really good.
That would be fun to try to type into Chat GPT. Please interpret this dream. See
Yeah.
what comes out. You are fucked in the head. That's all it would ever say to me.
Yeah, maybe that's a forthcoming job is like AI generated psychologist or something like that.
Maybe,
You put
yeah.
in your subconscious dreams and memories.
Yeah.
It generates the answer easily. You're psycho or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's this pill. I'll take it.
Yes.
You're cured.
All right, I guess we could kind of start winding down. All right, I guess that was an interesting show. I don't know how we went from Pride to AI, but whatever. I guess just go around. Anybody want to just plug things? Nate, you want to plug anything?
Yeah. I have a presentation titled Oculus that is all about symbolism, and it is going to be coming out the 24th and 25th of this month for free in an online free event called Freedom Under Natural Law 3 with the subtitle The Trivium. And there's a lot of really amazing speakers that are going to be talking about a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and then even more. And it's you know, these people are very hard workers, and I really respect them a lot. But it's going to be June 24th and 25th at freedomundernaturallaw.com, and you can find out all the information there. Yeah.
Cool. AK, you want to plug anything?
My book, Breakthrough Goals, a complete system for setting and achieving your goals, available on Amazon and Audible. Also, I guess for this, since it's Pride Month, I didn't have it here, but I have a Pride shirt. I know it's weird, but you can find it on Redbubble if you look it up. It's like gay Trump. I have a cartoon Trump on a unicorn going over a rainbow, and it says "I'm gay for Trump." And I've sold like 3 of them. So there's 3 other people like me out there that are gay for Trump. So yeah.
I'll put that in the description for you. Mitch, you have anything you want to plug?
I guess my Redbubble store. Just type in Aeronautdesignco, and it'll take you there. I don't have anything new.
Yeah.
I got stuff in the works.
Yeah. All right, cool, nice. All right, so, yeah, just be on the lookout for me to vend more this summer. I just vended this past Saturday, so that was an interesting event. So just be on the lookout for that.
Nice.
Starting to record my music mix show, and so when that's kind of finalized and more branded better, I'll release it. And yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for watching. This is a fun show. Thank you guys for being on. Yeah, we'll see you guys. Peace.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Later.